We're all hard-pressed to find positivity in 2020, the year where government and a mob of henchmen teamed up to violate rights and destroy property through a combination of regulatory strangulation and just good old-fashioned violence, all while claiming this is all in pursuit of some sort of prosperity. Sure, the renovation project looks rough now, but you never judge the remodel right after you sledgehammer the sheetrock, right? Yeah, forgive me if I don't trust an architectural partnership between spineless career politicians and Antifa thugs to build something beautiful or even stable, for that matter. In that scenario, I think I'll build something myself elsewhere, thanks. And that's the one silver lining in 2020's grab bag of black pills. In record numbers, Americans are taking responsibility for their safety and prosperity into their own hands by buying guns. In fact, according to the FBI, as of the end of June, every month of 2020 has been a month-on-month gun sales record. March set the all-time record at 3.7 million plus background-checked purchases, until June topped that at more than 3.9 million. And keep in mind, these numbers are only tracking background checks, as in mostly new purchases at gun stores. These numbers don't even account for selling or passing off a gun to your friend or family member privately to protect themselves. Numbers we should assume are similarly large. And that is totally predictable given the absolute bullshit cocktail we've all been forced to chug lately. First, it was the hordes panic buying the store shelves clean, until the fearmongers declared it safe to just loot the store shelves clean instead. Don't even bother with the payment formality. Hell, go ahead and pour some gasoline and strike a match on your way out. March your way into private property and threaten the owners. Accost and threaten anyone who gets in your way. Take out the cops through the same combination of law and violence. And this gun run isn't just predictable, it's an imperative. Any person who values his own life, liberty, and property is on his own to defend them. It's not about a hobby, it's about survival. If you threaten people and then work to make sure that nobody is coming to defend them, they have no choice but to defend themselves. In other words, a wave of crime and uncertainty has caused a wave of gun buys. Can I demonstrate that statistically? Not necessarily. Those transfer forms don't ask you why you're buying the gun. There's no short essay question. But the anecdotal evidence all points one way. Profile after profile covers gun shops describing a surge of first-time buyers in their stores, citing coronavirus anxiety and riot concerns and calls to defund the police. I can't even count how many friends and listeners of this channel have reached out to me this year asking about making their first gun buy, citing the very same concerns. And I hear the same thing from longtime gun guys. Crime and lawlessness are causing the gun run. But if you ask the analytical wonks, the professional actualies over at the Washington Post, the truth is actually the opposite. They say new research shows that it was the spring gun buying surge that has led to a spike in violent crime, citing two studies that claim to have data to support this idea. Democracy dies in darkness, and apparently basic reasoning skills die in the glow of this insane propaganda. This analysis wouldn't pass freshman-level social science scrutiny. Correlation does not imply causation. Simply showing two things happening simultaneously does not mean that one caused the other. But like all of these propaganda pieces, you can count on the narrative in the first few paragraphs and the crucial relevant information buried at the bottom. Paragraph 2 reads, quote, "The gun buying binge is associated with a significant increase in gun violence across the United States." Associated with. Okay, well, what's the association then? Because that language implies a relationship, but there's none explained. It's just observing one thing and then observing another and concluding there's a causal relationship without any plausible explanation for why. That same reasoning could say that gun buys are associated with toilet paper shortages, or gun buys are associated with increased ventilator usage, or gun buys are associated with Joe Biden gaffes. All of these things are happening simultaneously, but you can't conclude that one is causing the others without controlling for a whole host of relevant variables and providing a plausible theory on causation. Well, that's why you got to scroll all the way down to paragraph 13. The authors caution that a study of this nature cannot prove causality. There are way too many variables. So really, we're just pushing a political narrative under the cloak of the science from the experts. And it's not just that this analysis is silly and exactly backwards. It's that it's just plain lazy. Even if we buy this theory as true, that gun purchases are leading to gun violence, there are data and methods available to tighten and specify that analysis and see if it's actually true. This analysis just associates gun violence nationally with gun purchases nationally. But why? If I go buy a new gun in Bozeman, Montana, why is that relevant to an 8-year-old getting gunned down in Atlanta? It's not. Those two things are unrelated and shouldn't be compared. And there's no good reason to compare them. And the background check data are available, broken down by state. That'd be a good starting point, very easy. Hey, let's just compare state gun buys to the crime in that state. Better yet, do the hard but necessary work and see if the guns used in these crimes were actually newly purchased. The story in the research references 776 excess injuries associated with purchasing spikes. Again, associated, even though there's no demonstrated association, other than two things happening at the same time. Do the hard work. What guns were used in those cases? And when were those guns purchased? Yes, it's hundreds or even thousands of cases to comb through, but you're the ones making the claim, and you're the ones with the corporate journalism budget. So maybe do the journalistic work requisite of your remaining subscribers' dollars. But they're not going to do that, of course, because it's not about finding the truth. It's just about pushing the narrative. And just in case that first claim wasn't silly enough, well, they've got a sequel for you. It's not just that the gun buys are associated with gun violence. It's that the gun buyers are racist too. Quote, the research suggests that at least some of the spike in gun purchases is driven by racist beliefs and attitudes among white Americans. Well, again, the transfer form doesn't ask if you hate black people, so I'm very curious how you're measuring this variable. Purchases have been higher in states with greater levels of racial animus, the piece reads. How are you measuring racial animus? Well, the researchers approximated state-level racism using data on Google searches for the N-word, an approach this Washington Post author has referenced in the past. In fact, you'll be shocked to learn that Google searches for the N-word are just as frequent as searches for migraines or The Daily Show or the Lakers. Well, to be fair, those terms are often confused.
Perfectly cast on the Los Angeles Lakers.
So if a guy in Spokane Googles the N-word and then a black teen gets shot in Chaz, possibly by a black shooter, we're just going to say these things are related and conclude that racism is the cause when, one, we don't even know why the guy Googled the N-word. Rap lyrics are a perfectly plausible explanation. Two, we don't even know who did the murder. And three, we don't even know if the murder was done with a newly purchased gun. And we're going to call this the science from the experts. It's becoming clear to me that the only way out of this mess is trollery, just outright laughter in the stupid masked faces of those trying to infringe upon you. So fine, I'm going to do some explicit Google searches and then go buy another gun. All right, let's see here. Best gun to go with a white hood. Wow, sub 2000s are cool. I wonder how Keltec feels about that search result. How about best gun to defend a cross burning? Huh, well, I guess cross burnings are here to stay well into the future. And let's just be explicit for these researchers. Let's give them the data point they're searching for. Best guns for racists who want to do racist things with the guns. Ooh, wow, a 5.7. Those are cool. I always wanted one. That's a little outside my price range right now, but you get my point. Never cower before people trying to smear or intimidate you out of exercising your rights. Just laugh in their faces and exercise them twice as hard. That's why they're your rights. They're not contingent on someone else's judgment or approval of them. They are yours by virtue of your humanity. Even if you do sometimes Google the N-word. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel always. Appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.